Hey everyone. So just going to take some time here to explain our assignment. It's called the Health Plan Assignment, worth 10% of your total mark. What does this assignment consist of? A couple of things. Number one, you're going to be choosing a physical activity that you kind of wish to pursue, right, on a regular basis. So you're going to first assess your needs, your motivators, what are some of your barriers, right? Looking back at some of your fitness testing results, your current status in terms of physical activity in general, right? You're going to be kind of looking at all these things to eventually choose a physical activity that makes sense, that's realistic, that you're going to want to pursue on your own. Okay. Then the second part is choosing a lifestyle behavior that you wish to improve on or maintain for the rest of the semester. And just kind of telling me a little bit of like a little bit of an action plan here of what you're going to be doing to attain that. Okay. The first part you'll see there's a lot of checklists. You'll fly through this. It's pretty straightforward, but we need to kind of get some of this preliminary data here so you can choose your proper physical activity, right? You can make a good choice for yourself. So, what are some of your physical needs, your psychological needs, and your social needs, right? When it comes down to physical activity, you just put some check marks to whatever applies. Then we look at your barriers. Okay, so you have different barriers like lack of time, lack of motivation, social environmental factors, etc., etc. So you kind of read through these questions and you give yourself a 0, a 1, or a 2 based on, for instance, lack of time. You're overloaded with schoolwork. No, maybe, definitely. I don't know. You tell me, right? And at the end, you kind of add up your score for this entire category. Okay, so you do that across the board here. Those are your barriers. And then finally, you have your motivational factors. So check off whatever applies. And I want you to also highlight the two most important motivators for you when it comes down to physical activity. Okay. Um, then you're kind of this next section here. You're putting everything together in terms of your needs, your motivators, your barriers, and so forth. Starting with what is your current level of physical activity in terms of minutes and hours per week that you usually do. If you recall, chapter 3 on page 14 of the course pack, you already did this. You should have an answer ready for me here. Okay, so you can kind of use that same answer, no problem. All right. Unless you think it changed a lot, and then you can kind of give me a good average of how many minutes or hours you are active per week. All right. And then rate what you do right now in terms of physical activity. All right. So just on a weekly basis, let's say on average, what do you usually do in terms of physical activity? Right. So talk to me about how often you do it. So the frequency, what intensity do you train at? How long does each activity take? So in terms of time, and then your type. Well, obviously, what type of activity is it? Right, running? Is it soccer? Is it swimming? Is it weight training? I don't know. Okay, so you kind of give me a little bit of an overview of what goes on in terms of your physical activity here. Okay. Then looking back, right? So still kind of this is all the preliminary work here. Looking back at your fitness testing results on page 18 of the course pack, you should have all your uh, your results in. So I just want the rating. Okay, so remember the rating is like poor, average, excellent, very good. So you just kind of write that into from each test. And then what activities are you currently doing that kind of fall within this category? So for cardio, are you doing anything for cardio, right, on a regular basis? Maybe going for a run, maybe you go for a bike ride, maybe you do an elliptical machine once a week. I don't know. Okay, so write it down. What do you do for muscular endurance? Right. So these are like the 3 tests for muscular endurance. So what do you do on a regular basis that kind of maybe works on this? And don't worry if you don't work on it. You can leave it blank, right? If you don't do anything towards your muscular endurance or your cardio, then you can just write that out that you don't do anything. Okay. You don't have to have something for each category. What do you do for muscular power or strength, and what do you do for flexibility? Okay, so you can just write that in there. This is you're taking what you did in the previous pages. So looking page 2, when we talked about your physical needs, your psychological needs, your social needs, I want you to list what your primary need for each category is. So look at that list and what is your main physical need? What's your main psychological need and social need coming from that list on page 2? Same thing over here. On page 3 and 4, we talked about the barriers. So what are your top 2 barriers? Usually the score, so the highest score should be probably one of your top barriers, right? If you scored, let's say like a 6 or a 5 or anything above 3, it indicates a significant barrier to physical activity, right? So you can choose what are those top 2 barriers. And then finally, what are your 2 most important motivators that will encourage you to be physically active? So that was on page 4 of this assignment. You can write what are those top 2, those ones that you highlighted most probably. Okay, and this is where the fun stuff begins. So now we did all the preliminary work, right, which doesn't take too long. And now it's time to choose your physical activity. So what is the name of your physical activity? So are you going for a run? Are you trying something new? Maybe you're rock climbing. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you want to. Maybe it's something you've been doing for a while, right? You are allowed to choose an activity that you are already practicing. But what is this physical activity that you're choosing that makes sense to you? Something that you want to pursue now, okay, for the rest of the semester or the rest of this year or even next semester, that kind of makes sense to you based on all this preliminary work we just did. What fitness component or components does it target? So could be more than one, that's fine. So remember, this is your flexibility, endurance, strength, cardio, right? So you can let me know here. And then what is the recommended application of FIT for the activity's fitness component? What does FIT stand for, right? So frequency, intensity, time, and you also have type, but the type I already know because you can be writing it. What's that physical activity you're going to be doing, okay? The FIT principles are talked in, or they kind of appear in chapter 6, okay? The main chapter 6 training principles, they go over what the FIT principles are. So this is something we're going to be looking at as well. So you'll have all the information that you need. And this is not what you're going to be doing, but what is the recommended application of FIT principles for your activity? So let's say you're a runner and you're choosing to go for a run, right? So running is my main activity. Well, how often should you be running per week, right? What are the FIT principles say about that? What about intensity? What about time? How often or how long should you be running for, right? What are these recommendations? That's what I want in this box. Let's see if you understand that. The next box is what you're going to be doing, right? So answer the question, is it realistic for you to apply the FIT recommendations based on your current activity level? So let's say you are choosing to go for a run and frequency is telling you should be doing them 5 to 7 days a week, but you have zero time, you're only active maybe an hour each week. In the past, you've only been running once a week. Does it make sense for you to go 5 to 7 times a week right from the start? Probably not, right? So what are some of these modifications you're going to be making to the FIT principles over here, okay? So you might follow them word for word, that's okay, or you might change them up, right? You might maybe reduce some of your frequency or maybe reduce the intensity or maybe increase the intensity. I don't know, okay? So this is all based on what your current activity level is at, okay? And you can kind of make some modifications if you need. So that's why it says if it's not at the proper requirements, what values of FIT will you be applying? So what are you going to be modifying in this box, okay? In terms of frequency, in terms of your intensity, in terms of your time. And then explain in detail how you will apply progressive overload to your activity. Progressive overload also is kind of another topic that's covered in chapter 6. So how will you be applying progressive overload to your activity? All right. So make sure you take a look at that and you understand what progressive overload means. And then over here, justify your physical activity choice. So by considering all your needs, your motivators, your current fitness level, all that stuff. So just kind of justify why you're choosing that activity, basically. Okay, and you have some guiding questions here that you can kind of look at to help answer your question. Okay. So if you're telling me that you are kind of like afraid of heights, you don't like things that are outdoors or too challenging, um, you shouldn't be choosing something like rock climbing, right? So just make sure that whatever you're choosing makes sense, um, and you can justify it over here in this box. Okay. And the second part is the lifestyle behavior portion. So you're choosing a lifestyle behavior that you want to kind of work on, improve, maintain until the end of the semester. So it's kind of like a miniature goal that you have for yourself here. So what behavior do you wish to work on? Is it sleep? Is it stress management? Is it nutrition? Is it dependencies, right? So just what is that lifestyle behavior you want to work on? And then create a goal for yourself, right? So create one goal. So it's choose a specific, measurable, and realistic goal to attain by the end of the semester. Okay, so your goal has to be specific, measurable, and obviously realistic. What does that mean? Well, look at the example. I will improve my nutrition. If you just ended it right there, it's not very specific, right? I will improve on getting more sleep. It's okay, I get the idea, but make it specific, right? So for example, I will improve on my nutrition by reducing my consumption of fast foods to once per week. All right, that's pretty specific now. All right, so that's what I want to see. Make it measurable. So have some numbers involved, something that's measurable, concrete that you're going to be able to kind of assess and keep track of, right? So I will add 30 minutes of sleep per night, at least 5 days a week. Now it's something that you can kind of measure and track along the way, right? So make it measurable, and then make it realistic, right? So at the end of the day, if you go to bed, let's say at 2 a.m. every day, and you're always getting 6 hours of sleep, well, don't suddenly tell me your goal is to get 9 hours of sleep 7 days a week. That's not going to happen. Okay, make it realistic. Keep it simple. And then what's your action plan? What are your strategies for you to achieve this goal? So I want two of them. Identify and explain two strategies that you can apply to attain your goal. So example, I will substitute one of my fast food outings with a homemade version of a dish I usually order. For example, I will assemble my own pizza using fresh ingredients, etc., etc. Right? So now you have an action involved to kind of achieving this goal. Okay, I want two of them. All right. At the end, last but not least, you got your rubric. It is on 13. It's worth 10%. So make sure that everything gets answered correctly. This is, sorry, not 01. This is 021. There we go. But yeah, you get the idea. So look at the rubric and then keep track of your stuff. It should go well. Okay. Don't just answer like really vaguely. Make sure you elaborate, you explain your answers, you justify properly. Refer back to the course pack for some help with the FIT principles and progressive overload. And come and ask questions, right? Come see me during office hours or even in class. You can ask me some questions, run it by me to see if you're on the right track. These are all things that you should be doing to make sure that you're kind of, setting yourself up for success. Okay, so a lot of fun. You're going to choose an activity that you're going to pursue, and you're going to work on a lifestyle behavior that will hopefully help you with the rest of the semester. Okay, so best of luck, everyone, and I'll see you in class.